update. Friendships ended because I won't pay for someone to go on a trip. Original post. Realizing that I had Leech as a friend, and I'm disappointed in myself. Lori always wants to participate, but never contributes. And most of the time, it never really bothered me. Our group of 6 always contributed extra for things, like concerts, weekend trips, and so on. In high school, it was because Lori came from a poorer family than the rest of us, and wasn't able to get a job due to parentification, had 4 younger siblings. Then in college, it was because she couldn't work and maintain her grades without losing her scholarship. Now, she can't contribute anything because she's struggling financially and didn't have the means to save anything. And I got irritated, admittedly because she spends her money in crap ways. I've called her the Carrie Bradshaw group, which wasn't appreciated, but it is very much true in how she uses her income. We've been planning this trip for 4 years. I know it's awful to look at what someone has and judge their finances, but Lori's the same person who had no expenses during pandemic because she was living with me and my great-grandmother. She didn't pay for groceries, wasn't charged rent, still had her job, was getting hazard pay. Lori waited even until it came time to start paying for everything to say she didn't have it. She said this to me one-on-one while we were out shopping for the trip. Her idea. Lori wanted to go to stores that weren't cheap. I asked if she was sure, and she claims she wanted to treat herself. She spent just over $1,300. And then we go to lunch and she has the nerve to tell me she can't afford a trip. A whopping $2,683 per person for 15 days. Of course I said no, and guess what? She brings in the rest of the group 2 days later, and all of them are on board with splitting her expenses. Translation? They would cover half the costs among them, and I'd be stuck with the other half. Because I make the most money. And saying no means I'm an a-hole. Calling Lori out for blowing half of what she'd have to pay for the trip on crap she didn't need was too harsh and uncalled for? They claimed that she deserved to feel good about herself after the life she had. Like I wasn't raised by my grandparents and neglected by my parents in favor of their stepchildren. Wasn't working through high school and maintaining my grades to be valedictorian. Like I wasn't struggling until I got a good internship because I had to work. Yeah, I'm financially secure now, but why the heck should Lori be rewarded for bad spending habits? They're all upset now because I told them I'd go on a trip by myself. They didn't think I'd cancel it and go through with booking a trip for myself. It's costing me more, but screw them. They want Lori to go on a trip? They can plan one and take her without me involved. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Call it a very expensive life lesson, and now you have shed loads of weight and can find true friends who appreciate you for you, not your income. Your so-called friends will find out soon enough what type of a person she is, and they may finally get it when it is them who have to cough up hard-earned money to make her life easier. Spot on. She's a huge leech who plays the victim. Couldn't have said that better myself. WTF? No. If you can't afford it, don't come. And sure as heck don't let me watch you spend more than half the cost, then tell me you can't afford it. And who the heck are your friends to decide you'll be paying half? No. If they want to cover the expenses, they can. But they can't volunteer you to do it. Why are you still friends with her? Or any of them? We had a friend like this once, and we just stopped inviting her. If my friends weren't all over it, I would have said I'm not coming. Like I said, it hadn't bothered me before. But she moved out last year, claimed she had a better grasp on her finances, and then hits me with this. I'm not going to be friends with any of them after this. Does this mean she didn't pay living expenses for 3+ years? She lived off your family's generosity, including groceries, for 3+ years? Yes, it does, and I'm genuinely angry looking back on it. She lost her apartment just before COVID, and my great-grandma suggested I let her stay until she got on her feet. That turned into her quarantining with us, and she paid no expenses to save up and get a new place. Most people who have some assemblage of character would have offered to pay something while at your great-grandmother's house. For 3 years is astounding. No one lives for free unless you're a child. Good riddance to her. Now for the update a week later. Seriously, I get called mean, selfish, cruel, and a bunch of other insults for not bankrolling idiot's life. Decide to cut contact and end a friendship, and now they want to make up? Lori, the primary leech, has horrible spending habits. Think Carrie Bradshaw from Exodus City. She'll blow her money on designer clothing and shoes, and then ask you to cover her expenses for trips. And the more I think about how much money I've wasted on her over the years, the angrier I become. Lori has apparently burned more bridges in the week or so I've been no contact. They apparently decided that they can't afford to bring Lori on a similar trip to what I had originally planned for us. It was 15 days split between Portugal, Spain, and Italy. One of the group, Jenna, went to my grandpa because she couldn't get in contact with me. I had blocked all of them, mainly because I got sick of arguing. Grandpa told her now wasn't a good time, though refused to give her any details. She came back 4 days in a row until he relented. He called me for her and gave me the gist of things before I told him to send her to the coffee shop I was at. A post for another day because I'm still processing my earlier meeting and know I'll need to vent about it. The meeting with Jenna went to hell in a handbasket. She started by telling me the group had planned a new trip and she knows I'm mad. But canceling on them and then not sharing the agency was really cruel. They found an agency to travel through, but to keep the time they had off from work means they have to pay more. Cheapest they could get was $4,000 a person. I didn't respond, mainly because yes, she continued to blame me for their crap, like it wasn't their fault I canceled and stopped talking to them. When I told her that it was their fault, Jenna agreed that it was. She revealed that they tried to talk Lori into returning everything she brought so she could contribute her part. In her words, they can't afford half the things I can. Jenna personally believes that Lori's need for designer things is because of me. I didn't snap immediately at this and let her ramble about it. I know you don't notice it, but you're always wearing nice things and spending money on nice places. You're always buying expensive makeup, getting your nails and your hair done. She just wants that lifestyle too, and it's like you're rubbing it in her face. All of us are at fault. And yes, I do spend my money on those things. But as I told Lori and now Jenna, I can afford that lifestyle. I budget for those things. I thrift shop and a good number of my nice things are secondhand. Yes, I put a lot of effort into my appearance, but I also live below my means. I live in the house my great-grandmother owns outright and pay utilities, shop in bulk and local markets for food, and have good insurance that covers great-grandma's medical expenses. I, again, thrift for my nicer things, or save for them or wait for a sale. I have enough in my lost my job savings account to last a year. Yes, I have a savings account just for that, and continue to add to it from every paycheck. Everyone that knows me are aware of how I can afford what I afford. I don't make an effort to hide this. However, it is not my fault Lori refuses to be smart with her spending. I said all of this to Jenna and she had a nerve to cry. She said not everyone can have that type of security, and unlike me, they can't afford a last-minute trip, and Lori especially couldn't. I cut her off when she started on Lori's sad childhood and just let her have it. I told her she was fixated on my finances and lifestyle, but that wasn't my fault. She and the rest of the group all have decent careers. They all had better safety nets than I did, and it made them complacent. I didn't have that. Yes, I was middle class growing up, but I wasn't as well off as them. Yes, I had a grandpa who would spoil me, but it wasn't to the extent they think. I still drive his old Impala. I had been the first to get a car in our group, right? Because his eyesight was going bad. He couldn't drive me around like their parents did. And don't get me started on college itself. Lori had a financial aid packet because she was poor. Jenna and the rest had family that could pay off their tuition and living costs. And I got barely anything aid-wise and had to work because my grandparents couldn't afford it. And my parents refused to acknowledge me. If I hadn't landed an internship-turned-career that paid off my education, I'd still be in debt. Jenna kept crying and I told her to stop, that I'm sick of them and they're crying. I threw her getting cut off by her parents in her face, told her that it was because she's a financial leech, just like Lori, and that was her problem. I'm sick of them acting like I'm the problem, and I was done listening to her efforts to villainize me. Rather than whining, maybe she should think about why her parents cut her off, and why I am also cutting her off. Because she likes to blame everyone and everything for her failures. I shouldn't have said it, but I did. You got kicked out for stealing someone's essay. You wasted their money, and I damn sure won't let you waste mine. Grow the heck up. I don't even bother my family again. Then I left her there crying. Not my finest moment, but seriously, what the actual hell is wrong with people? She spends $1,300 in clothes in front of OP immediately before saying she had no money for the trip? Delusional. But you don't understand. Lori had a tough childhood, and it's really OP's fault for buying nice-looking second-hand clothes that Lori must spend thousands on designer clothes to one-up OP. And since OP doesn't spend all of her money as soon as she makes it, unlike Lori, that means OP has money to pay for others' vacations. Why won't anyone think of poor Lori? You hit the nail on the head. Lori just had to keep trying to one-up OP because she thought that's what OP was doing to her, not realizing that OP didn't think of Lori when getting herself something nice. OP was thrifting and minding her own business. Lori couldn't understand that. When she grew a spine, she realized that her friends were with her for a lack of spine. I'm not surprised. People don't like getting called out for mooching. There's always an extinction event where everyone gets very angry at the person they can't take advantage of anymore. And what was Lori going to do for spending money on a trip? Even if the 5 of them split the initial trip cost, how was she going to afford to go to places, to eat, etc.? Even if the food was included in the cost, it still means she would be hungry at the airport. OP's friends are perhaps the kind of group where they all once got along, but changed as they progressed into adulthood so they no longer fit. She is better off without them. Yes, there are a lot of Hallmark cards written about being friends forever, but honestly, it's pretty rare. Lots of our friends from elementary, high school, and college are mostly with us because we are all at the same stage of life at the same time in the same place. Once everyone is living their adult lives and making their own decisions, lots of friendships fade. Not all of them. My wife and her best friend have known each other for 30 years. But a lot of relationships that started in school don't survive adulthood. Last story. My parents and sister asked me to cancel my vacation and give her the money for child custody legal costs. I said no, and now they're furious. Background. My older sister did a student exchange program when she was in college. She liked it so much there that she ended up staying there. Eventually, later on, she met someone. They have a child who is 8 now, and they were planning on getting married. But their relationship fell apart before the wedding happened. My sister wanted to move back here and bring her child with her. I always thought that if a baby had a parent with U.S. citizenship, it automatically made a baby a citizen no matter where in the world that baby was born. But that's not true. Since my sister and her child's father aren't married, and my sister had not been physically present in the U.S. for years before their child was born, it means their child is not automatically a citizen. Their child could get citizenship, but that would require them 1, to be allowed to enter the country legally as an immigrant, and 2, for them to be in the physical and legal custody of my sister. This is where the problems happen. Their child is a citizen of her father's country, and a court there won't let my sister have custody or bring their child here. All the times my sister has tried and appealed, the courts say the current country is their home. Their child has no ties to the U.S. and has never been here, and my sister has no right to remove them from their home country. They also say the free childcare and better standard of living means their child should stay, and even talk about how much safer it is there versus here. Even though the law about an unmarried mother giving citizenship to their child born in another country has changed, it doesn't apply after the fact. My sister's child was born a year before the law changed, so it doesn't count in their case. The U.S. has an agreement with the country my sister lives in about custody agreements and child support, so the courts here can't do anything. My sister has tried going to court and then appealing decisions both here and in the other country. She has hired lawyers in both countries. She has gone to politicians in both countries. She's had all kinds of consults with experts in international law. And no matter where she turns, the law is against her. And her ex says their child will not ever come here until they are 18 and can decide for themselves. Her choices are either to stay in the other country where her ex has their version of legal and physical custody and sister would have visitation, not 50% but close. She can also try to meet the requirements for citizenship. Or she can move back to St. Louis and then go back to the other country once or twice a year for a visit. To help my sister pay for huge legal bills, my parents remortgaged their house. It was basically paid off, but now they're underwater on it. They gave her their entire savings as well. My mom didn't work after my sister and I were born, but she's had to get a job as a cashier because of my parents' financial situation. My dad won't be able to retire now. They're looking if there's any social assistance because of how bad things are. I'm terrified that something will happen that will make their situation worse, like an accident or illness because of how bad the situation is. Even after all this, they're still hell-bent on helping my sister. I don't have the money to look after them if anything goes wrong. I'm a phlebotomist. I don't have piles of money lying around to help my parents. And even now, they're still giving my sister money. My sister is almost massively in debt. Before now, neither her or my parents asked me for money. But now that my parents and my sister have found out I'm taking a vacation, they want me to cancel it and give the money to my sister. I finished my training in 2020, and the last 4 years in the healthcare sector have been so stressful. I haven't had more than 3 days off in a row since I started my job. I'm going on a Viking cruise, and I've been looking forward to it for over a year. I don't want to cancel it. I currently do not have any debt, but they are pressuring me to go into debt for my sister. My parents have visited my sister's child. They have visited the other country and regularly do video calls and phone calls, but I think my parents and my sister are still in denial about the situation. When I said I'm not canceling my cruise or going into debt to help my sister, all 3 of them got so angry. My sister lost it on me, and my parents backed her up and said they were disappointed in me. Besides my sister's child, the 3 of them are my only family. But my parents and my sister won't talk to me unless it's to tell me how angry they are. It just sucks that they won't talk, even though I know I'm right and won't change my mind. Now for the top comments. Never set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Your parents can choose to let their money go up in flames. You do not have to add your own fuel to a dumpster fire. This, as much money as your parents and sister have poured into the sad situation, no amount from you can possibly make a difference. She is fighting a lost cause, and the only beneficiaries are the lawyers. She will have to remain where she is until daughter is 18, then revisit her and daughter's future. Your poor parents have lost all their assets for a lost cause, sadly. I feel for them, but there is no reason for you to do the same. This is insane. It sucks for your sister, but the situation isn't going to change, and the whole family going broke is not going to make it better. I am sorry you are being treated this way. I understand they are probably scared, but it is not okay. Hopefully your sister can figure out a long-term plan and they will calm down. Honestly, the odds are so against them anyways. Both countries say the child should stay in his home country. He has free healthcare and pretty much so much more privileges he's not going to get in the US. Why take him away from that? It's honestly selfish. They're just throwing away money at this point. It's unfortunate, but there's literally no reason to keep getting into debt for something that's not going to happen.